Hello and welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Moneca.
And I'm Andrea. And welcome to episode 8 of season 2, If Memory Serves. And we see that Spock and Burnham are on the way to Talos 4. And we find out from like the little sneak peek from the other, Pike and Spock have been there before in one of the past Star Trek episodes. So they're on their way there because Spock needs to figure out how to heal. Michael, is definitely trying to figure out what's going on with Spock. And we see that Stamets is trying to come to terms with what's going on with Hugh, and Pike and the Discovery crew are trying to figure out what's going on with Michael and Spock. So there's a lot to discuss, a lot to cover. So let's go ahead and get into it. What is your initial reaction about this episode?
Finally, Hugh gets the chance to confront Ash / Bulk, and let's just say not talk it out, but work it out, duke it out. And also, finally, we get the chance to meet the real Spock. I know you've been waiting to meet the real Spock. What did you think about this episode?
I like this episode. Coming off the tail, I think 2 episodes where I was just like, oh, come on, what are we doing? I really did like this episode. I enjoyed what we learned. I love the connection to a past Star Trek show. I love that it sort of picked up exactly where that one left off. I like this Spock and Michael. To answer your question, the beard is working. Okay, honey, the beard is working for Spock. Let's not get that twisted. And I like that, yes, we did see a little bit more of Hugh. I need them to never put Hugh in that black outfit again, because honey was getting it this entire episode. Oh, there was a moment where I had to pause because I was like, okay, Sierra, okay, Andre, we gotta cool our jets because he was looking too good. So there's a lot to digest in this episode. So let's go ahead and let's talk about, we're on section 31, and we see Leland is getting a whole bunch of reprimands because of what Georgiou did. And it played right into her game. So what do you think about that scene?
Well, she's strategic and she knows when to shine. She could have stepped back and allowed Leland to take control in that meeting, but she didn't. And she brought out her ideas, and they seem to be more interested, meaning Starfleet, more interested in Georgiou's ideas than Leland.
And that is not looking good because, hello, she's evil. And I think Leland is finally starting to see that he can't really trust her. Like, I don't think he ever actually trusted her as much as, Section 31 trusts another Section 31 member. But I'm really starting to see that, okay, she's not. I'm seeing that he's seeing that she's not playing within inside the rules, and she's gunning for my job. I need to watch myself. So it's not looking good for Leland, and still don't know if I can trust Georgiou, because I feel like she is playing the long con with both Discovery and Section 31 and Starfleet as a whole. So who knows what's possibly going to happen. I just have to talk about it. We got to talk about Hugh first. Before we can talk about anything else, we got to talk about Hugh, because the scene where Paul is just, walking Hugh down the hall and explaining where everything is, and sort of just explaining, you're back and we're so happy, and here's a tour of the ship that you know about because you lived here when you were alive. And we see Ash so just walk across them, but Ash doesn't see Hugh, but Hugh sees him. And Paul says, oh, I sort of wish, the first time you saw him was different, but I can have him put on a different, level if that's fine with you. And we see that Hugh just sort of ignores Paul and sort of follows Ash. And Ash still doesn't know that he's there. Ash knows that he's alive, but doesn't know that Hugh's watching him. And then we see Ash get on the elevator, turn around, and make eye contact with Hugh as the doors close, and Hugh just stares at him. And I knew in that moment, this is a different Hugh. This is a different one.
What did you think? Ash needs to watch out because he's coming for him.
He had the high school eyes of, I'm coming for you, bitch.
What did you think? He has all right to.
He has all the right to. Yeah. But it gives me hope that that scene gave me hope that Hugh was going to stand up for himself. He wasn't going to just have strong words for Tyler. that he was really going to have a confrontation with him. But what did you think of that scene of how pre-death Hugh was like almost as animated as Paul was, and post-death Hugh is a lot more reserved than Paul?
I'm only going to talk about post-death Hugh because that's like so fresh in my mind right now. But I think post-death Hugh has had a lot of time to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're murdered by someone and you're like in a weird space, confined in isolation for 6 to 9 months, there's a lot of thoughts that run through your mind about the person that killed you and opportunities there and how to set out revenge. So I think that there is that, and that could morph out. He's also in a weird spot. He might not be still interested in being in medicine. So he may not have that ethical line of, I need to like ensure life. Like he's not in uniform at this point.
Yeah.
So he's like a regular, I don't want to say citizen, but like a regular person on the ship. And he needs to resolve some issues with Ash that Ash created. And the thing though that was really strange to me was that Paul was very nonchalant about this. And I didn't like that. And I was hoping that Paul would be more understanding that they have grown apart a little differently, more than just having dinner in their quarters. Like there's more to talk about here. Mm-hmm. And Paul didn't seem understanding of that. What did you think about Paul?
So Paul made the mistake that every couple or every surviving couple in the trope makes. Because this trope isn't sort of new of you think your spouse is dead and they come back and then like you try to pick up exactly where like you left off, whether that person was in a coma, whether they were lost at sea, whether you thought they died and they didn't. We've seen a version of this like lost love and they're back trope where someone tries to pick up exactly where they left off. And he made the mistake of just assuming that he was on the same page. Like he was so happy in the fact that he got Hugh back, he never stopped to think, are you the same person? Because in Paul's mind, he got back the man from the moment he died. Like it's like we're picking up from that moment. But in Hugh's mind, he lived months in pain in the mycelial network. It's like almost out of sight, out of mind, just because like I didn't see you, so you never progressed. That's not necessarily true. And I felt bad for Paul because I saw him making that mistake in the last couple episodes that we saw Hugh. I saw him making the mistake of just being so excited that Hugh's back that he doesn't stop to think you're not the same person that you were before you died. So I'm heartbroken for Paul, and I feel like they're going to end for a bit. Hope not forever, but I feel like they're going to end for a bit because he's definitely going to need some time to himself to come to terms.
Right. See, I don't know if this is like the engineering side of Paul thinking, oh, he's physically there, right? But not thinking about his mental state and his heart may be in a different place because that's not traditional engineering. Like, so he might need to talk to Jet and understand these differences. But that part was interesting. And then also Hugh stating that he was puzzled by why Paul still kept some of his things around, why Paul still had some of Hugh's things around. And I was thinking, well, if Paul really moved on, he would not have been on Discovery. He would be off teaching at the Vulcan Science Academy and then not have this opportunity to bring Hugh back. So I was hoping also if he was a little bit more gracious that Paul was there at least trying a little bit. That Paul was able to bring him back. Probably need couples counseling.
This is where I'm dead aside, and I have to disagree because yes, it's great that Paul hadn't moved on and met someone new, and so Hugh's coming back, and he's like having like, I hate that trope of, the person moved on and you come back and you have to make it whole work. I'm sort of happy it didn't happen, just because of the way I saw it going. Only like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I completely understand where you're coming from, but I would rather Hugh be 100% and get back with Paul, or be open to it, versus just because Hugh hasn't said that he doesn't love Paul, but at the same time, Hugh doesn't know how he feels. So I can understand that it's still to him, why did you keep my stuff? Because as far as Paul knew, like, he was dead. Why just like it's I can understand the thought process behind it, because he doesn't feel connected to his old life yet. And so he can't meet someone halfway or accept it if he doesn't even accept that he himself is alive. Like, I don't think it's fully hit him that he's still alive yet, if that makes sense. Like, right, in his mind,
he's dealing with feelings.
Yeah. Like, he's like, I know that this is my favorite food, but it doesn't feel like it's my favorite food. It's like, you kept my stuff, great. Or no, what did he say when he was in the room? He's like, you never made dinner in here before. Like, I can't connect to this life yet. So like, my hope and prayer is that Paul and Hugh make it back to each other. But I understand that like Hugh needs to deal with the trauma of being dead and coming back and reconnecting with his life. Because I want him and Paul to be that strong unit again, because I loved them together. They were adorable. And so my hope is for them. I just feel like it's going to take some time for Hugh to come to terms. And that sort of leads into like the next part of like when he confronts Ash and Tyler. And okay, first of all, I have to say, I paused that scene. I paused it before I started because I had really bad secondhand embarrassment and I couldn't like officially watch it first. I had like collect myself to watch it. What did you think of what were your thought processes about the fight between him and Tyler?
Well, I noticed in the earlier scene with Paul and Hugh in their quarters that that Hugh like hit the cart with the dishes on it. Mm-hmm. So I knew that Hugh is still dealing with like his feelings and anger and having a hard time adjusting that, because that seems different than the previous version of Hugh that we know. He was never like aggressive like that.
Never.
So when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's still dealing with feelings, conflict management, all this other stuff. And then when he stormed out and walked down the hall, I was like, Paul, you need to run after your man. But Hugh walks into the mess hall where you can always find Ash. If you're ever looking for Ash, he's always in that mess hall. And Ash,
because he's always in some mess.
Yes, that's true. And still, Paul didn't enter into the mess hall with Hugh. Oh my goodness. But Hugh confronted Ash, which was good. And I believe Hugh asked Ash to bring him out, to bring out Bulk. Because he wanted to confront his true enemy. I think he knew.
You're right. He knew it wasn't Ash who killed him. He knew it was Bulk.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So I think his medical side, like of his brain, was logically thinking about this part, and he had that memory sense. But he also has all this built up frustration with like
the person who killed him. Yeah.
Right? With that. In I believe that happened in the infirmary, right? So like
his home base, his like place that he was in charge, he got murdered.
Right. I'm sure that's like his safe space. And no, someone messed that completely up. And so, I mean, that some person was Ash, but Ash seemed to be hesitant at first about fighting back. But then Hugh, like, I think, hit the table, and the two of them started tussling, and then I was like, it's going down. Yes. finally. Can I say
this new Saru was like, let them fight. I was like, okay. Let's do this.
Yeah,
I
I
was
like that
not
one too.
expecting Saru to be like, let him fight. He was like,
Yeah.
no. He's like, no, this needs to happen. And I was like, on behalf of everyone.
Yeah, because
Thank
Tilly
you.
was like, oh no, I should stop this. And Saru was like, oh no, this is years of coming. I think they all were waiting for this. Everybody.
Because when Hugh walked into that cafeteria and walked up to Ash, everyone stopped. Everyone looked. And I'm really happy that no one was sitting with Ash. Like, I'm very happy no one was sitting with Ash because I'm still mad at everyone for coming to sit with him after he killed Hugh. And everyone was just like, it wasn't you and all that stuff. And I'm happy that he was sitting by himself, because Hugh walked in there, kicked the chair, kicked the food, pushed the food, and was like, bring him out.
Right.
And Ash was like, it doesn't work that way. And I know Hugh wanted to say it. The only thing that would have made this scene better is if Hugh said, it worked that way when you killed me. Like, that would have been the best line. If Hugh said that would have been the best line ever. I was waiting for that line of, it would have worked. It worked when you killed me.
Right.
Like, or some variation of it.
I also want to say that I'm glad Michael was not on the ship. I'm glad this scene did not include her. It doesn't have to. Like, I feel like she's like always there at certain spots. This was totally fine to play out without her.
Yes. Yes.
And she may have like tried to save Ash or whatever. It's fine. This is an issue between the two of them, and I'm glad they were able to literally duke it out.
And Hugh held his own.
Yeah.
Hugh held his own. I was quite proud of him. I was really quite proud that he was really, because, and you're right, Ash really did sort of like hold back, because he wasn't really trying to fight. Because like that was if he lost the fight, it was a lose situation. If he won the fight, it was still a lose situation, because it was like there was no way for Ash to come out. Like, either you lost the fight and I guess you saved face, or you won the fight and you're looked at as horrible. So it was like there was really no true way for him to win this fight. Right. But the line that he tells Hugh when he was like, I don't even know who I am, and Ash is like, and look who you're talking to, basically. And I think that resonated with Hugh more than I felt like he wanted it to.
Right.
Because Hugh doesn't know who he is. And so he's like, it's like almost like he's just a passenger in this body. Like, it's not really his. And the sad part about it is Ash is the only one who can explain, who sort of knows what he's going through. And it's like, but you killed him. Right. It's your fault, Ash, that he feels this way. But you are also the only person who understands what it feels like to not have control, or to feel like this is your body.
They have more in common
than
what they were previously thinking about. Yeah.
And I know he was not happy about that at all. I will say I'm happy that the fight sort of ended at that point, because Hugh did need to. There was no way I would have been satisfied if Hugh did not swing hands on Ash at all whatsoever. Like, there was no way Hugh could have gotten out of this conflict. Or there's no way Ash could have gotten out of this conflict with Hugh without some hands swinging. Because it needed to. It had to.
I was still hoping, maybe I'm a hopeless romantic, that Paul would run in and separate the two of them and hold back Hugh, right?
Yeah, no. You're a hopeless romantic, because not
for Star Trek. But Hugh, Paul entered later. I think he was late to the party.
Optic wise, if Paul came in, it would have maybe shown that Hugh wasn't completely all the way there, or like strong enough to handle his own or to protect himself, because he's facing down the guy who killed him. So like, this is almost like a point of pride to like get some, like, I'm taking back some of the crap that you took from me because you killed me. Like, you're a hopeless romantic. I'm dead inside. I'm happy Paul didn't stop it. But it was really funny though when Pike was talking to Saru after the fact, and Saru was like, it just needed to happen. And Pike was like, is this because of your evolution? Because I doubt the person before when you still had the threat ganglia that you would have responded that way. And he's like, and let people know this cannot happen again. It's like, it was almost like Pike was like, look, I'm gonna let this one slide because I understand.
Right.
but no, this is not acceptable. This will never happen again at all.
Yeah.
But I feel like even Pike was sort of just like, yeah, Hugh on the inside. Like
yeah, but it shows how good of a captain Pike is. The way he approached Saru about that was gentle, like, and didn't like put him in a hard check, and understanding of Saru's change, understanding there is that this needed to happen, and then, you know, Pike is also getting closer to Ash, but I don't know. I just felt like that was a very nice boss thing to do and to say casually in the hallway.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right. It was like, look, I'm not going to reprimand Hugh for going after the person who killed him, who literally got no negative repercussions for murder. But I will say I'm very happy that Hugh got his little hits in, because I think I said it either last episode, the episode before last, that if Hugh does not lay hands on Ash, I'm gonna be upset, and I'm so happy that he did. I don't condone violence, but the dude murdered him, so things had to like.
Yeah, he started it. Ash started it, and Hugh finished it.
And yes. So. Before we go to break, let's take a quick second to talk about what's going on with Discovery, because your job was to find the debris, the probe debris, and Pike was like, "We're doing that, but we're also trying to find our men." And Ash has to tell Pike, like, "Look, Section 31, I'm like on the down low, doesn't want Spock to live. So like they want to bury him. So stop looking. Stop." It was a very nicely put threat, in my opinion, because he was like, "Look, they want to bury him. You cannot keep like looking for them. Trust Michael." And Pike brings up a good point. He's like, if you trust Burnham more than you trust Section 31, why are you with them? And he gives us an answer, but for me, it was more of like, look, they're a gray area. I'm a gray area. They want to make sure Starfleet stays on top. We're all going to work together. That's what I got from his explanation. What did you think of that like scene of Pike and Ash having that little conversation?
Well, it shows how mature they have grown together. Like, I felt like Pike was not mature in the last episode and wanted to be adventurous in this whole expedition out to find the probe and help save the day, yada, yada, yada. And then Ash has been immature before as well. So the two of them, they have been mending their relationship and have been like able to talk more frankly about each other. Also talking about Ash's relationship with Michael a bit, but not spilling all the beans. Like, that was very nice. The way that Ash described their relationship was very like on the down low, like saying like he was in love with Michael, but he's not exactly sure how she was feeling about him and that he made mistakes. So that he manned up there.
Yes.
And I think also Pike appreciated that because Michael didn't even share that much information.
Yeah.
And Ash is also, like you said, in a gray area because he's part of Starfleet. He's the only member of Starfleet that I know of that's also been like a flag bearer for Klingons, right? So he's and has been grafted by Klingons. So he's in a much different situation. I think he's not sure where he's fit. He's going through an identity crisis. And I think this position with Section 31 allows him to live on the edge and this area of grayness while he tries to work out his issues. I appreciate the fact that he shared this information with with Pike. I think Pike already knew that they were following him and tracking him down. So Ash just brings a whole other level of connection. I'm glad also Ash stops tossing out his badge to try to pull some rank. Like that badge for Section 31 had any power, and Pike squashed that by saying, no, this chair outranks.
Yes.
Your badge. Yes. So it was interesting to see those dynamics between the two. Hopefully they put their egos and their macho, things behind them and just trying to move forward for the betterment of Spock, Spock's health, and Michael. So yeah.
Couldn't agree more. So guys, okay. So now the second half of this episode, we are going to be talking about Spock and Michael. So they're on the way to Talos, and it looks like they're going through a black hole. And like you see Spock sort of wakes up a little and then goes back to sleep, and Michael's doing like this whole little quick, just checking his temperature, I guess, and making sure he's still alive and whatever. And she realizes that they are going into a black hole. And so she's trying to get the transporter to stop. And like Spock wakes up out of nowhere and like just sort of like mushes her out of the way. And it was like, nope, we're going forward. And she's like, no, we're going to be torn apart. And she tries to take over the control again. And their fight was such a sibling way of fighting. It was just so adorable. And like Spock takes them through the black hole, and Michael realizes it was all an illusion. And Spock just looks at her and then sits down and passes back out. And I was like, okay, that's when he's conserving his energy for when he needs it. It was hilarious, in my opinion, that scene. What did you think of like their little tete-a-tetes, little fight?
That was cute. And I also think that's an excellent like defense mechanism.
Yes.
To be able to like show the worst, like just to show a black hole, like do not enter, this is danger. Like that's awesome. So I'm curious about this planet.
Yes. So they land, and Michael exits the ship, and she sees a lot of like the blue flowers that we saw from that little flashback from the previous Star Trek show, which I still have to say that was a really cute thing that they did. Like they cut to another Star Trek show in this episode. I thought that was really cute. But when Michael gets back on the ship, we see Vina. Was that her name, Vina?
Yep.
She is like talking to Spock, and Michael's first action is to like, shoot first and ask questions later. But Starfleet is ask questions first, then shoot. And she's holding the phaser, trying to figure out what's going on. And Vina's like, I know him. Chill. He needs help. We can help him. Like beam to these coordinates. And I didn't realize you could beam on and off of a ship like that. I thought you could only beam if you had a transporter pod, like from an actual ship. I didn't know you could just be on a transport, like one of those cargo ships thingies, and transport off. Because I've seen people begin transport off of that onto a ship, but never from that ship to somewhere else. Have you ever seen that before? Because I don't think I've ever seen that before.
But then also Vina asks about Christopher Pike.
Yes.
And I think that's what made Michael think, oh, I should trust her a little bit. She knows more than what I think that she knows. Like it, yeah. I could tell that Michael was processing.
Yes. And the people of this planet, they know what's wrong with Spock, that he's not experiencing time in a linear movement. So he's experiencing all time at the same time. And he doesn't know how to process it. And they're telling her, if he does not get this, we can fix him. But if he does not get this fixed, he will lose his mind because his brain was not set up to comprehend time in this manner. And they tell her, we can fix him, but we want a memory from you about this rift to do it. And Michael's like, no, I'm not going to give you this memory. First of all, I want you to be like, Michael, if you don't sit down and give him this memory, your brother, you just sat there and said you do anything for Spock. You're on the run from Starfleet, and you won't. And these people, Spock brought you here because he knew that these people could help him. And you made this whole big thing about this entire season about how you want to make it right with Spock. And these people could fix your brother. And you're like, is this just entertainment for you? And it's like, no, we did this because we understand. And we need to, like, this is how we understand and grow. And she's like, well, learn another way. I'm like, okay, Michael, you're ready to do everything unless you have to be vulnerable. So just be vulnerable, fix your brother so we can figure out what is going on. And they do. They start to fix Spock, and we see a quick conversation between Michael and Spock, and they're like verbally sparring in a way siblings do, which I find hilarious. I find it so cute because at the end, and I'm repeating this from my initial reaction of this episode, she asks him, do you think that beard is working? And like, he sort of fills the beard. And I just want to say, Spock, that beard is working. It is working for you. My name is Andrea, and I firmly approve of this beard. What did you think about that initial conversation between the people from Talos and Michael? And even that first conversation between her and Spock when he's like finally sane.
Yeah, I mean, I was puzzled but Michael puzzles me all the time. I mean, like, she confuses me all the time. She goes back and forth about this, all of this. She's already risked her career, possible mutiny again. So, girl, just do what you gotta do and help your brother out. That's like bottom line.
Like, what more can you lose right now at this point? Like, literally, what more can you lose?
And she should be trying to make amends with her brother.
Yes.
Right? So show him that you
are willing to do anything
to support family. And it's like, it's puzzling because Spock even told her, like, he chose her in this because she would have context. And she replied back with, oh, because I'm family. And it's like, look, just help.
Yeah, just help.
Move this along.
And then we see that even Vina, she shows how she really looks to Michael, which I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay, yep, go back to the illusion. And that was sort of like the turning point for Michael to accept it. And again, it shouldn't have taken that much for Michael to do it. It really shouldn't have. It should have just been, Spock brought you here. You supposedly trust your brother. They know Spock. He wouldn't have come here if he didn't feel safe. And we see that one of the first memories we see is of a young Michael running through the Vulcan forest. And we see a version of her die. And Spock explains that the Red Angel, that was his first vision from the Red Angel. It showed him Michael dying and how he could change it. And so he went to his parents and said, this is where she is in the forest. And they get there and they save the young little Michael. And I was because they alluded to this, that he was able to do this a couple episodes ago, but didn't realize that her life was in the line when he did it. Like she would have died if he didn't tell anyone.
I'm so eager to talk about what had happened that made her run away. This is crazy.
I mean, well, she ran away because the school was attacked. That's the original reason why she ran away. It was because she knew if she stayed, because she admitted that I think a couple episodes ago, that the reason she ran away was because the school was attacked, and she knew the extremists would have kept attacking Sarek because he had a human living inside his house. So that was, I was like, I knew that's why she ran, but that was still like, oh, I didn't realize Vulcan forces were like that dangerous to where you were about to just be like murked by some wild animal.
Right.
For running through it.
She also did not feel comfortable talking to her adopted parents and her sibling Spock about these issues.
Yeah.
Her idea to solve the problem was to run away. I don't know what she thought she was going to do from there. Like where that was going to go.
She was trying to go back to Earth. I think they said she was trying to make it back to Earth.
How? But
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how she thought she was going to get back to Earth. I think that was her plan. She was trying to get back to Earth.
It's not a logical decision. Is basically what I wanted to say.
Oh, you know, it was not a logical. This was a purely emotional decision that she made because she cared about them, and so she wanted to protect them by not being with them. And I think every time we see that in a trope, in the storyline, it's never the right decision. It has never been the right decision to leave when you're trying to protect someone. But we see more of Spock's memories, and we see him when he's in this psychiatric unit, and he's figuring out he's like going through all these maps and equations, and the doctor comes in and explains, hey, your symbols are starting to make sense because they're happening to places. And she admits, and he's like, you can't really help me. I need to leave. And he can't leave because Section 31 wants to get their hands on him. And so we see that he doesn't kill them. He does like the Vulcan pressure hold thing.
Yeah.
And knocks out the doctor. And then he just like sort of beats up the other two guards and escapes. And the Michael in the memory, because she's viewing his memory, was like, you didn't murder them. And he's like, you're in my head and you're still questioning me. Like, you're seeing the memory and you're still questioning me. And I was like, Michael, like, I need you to stop talking for a moment. Like,
yeah, she should have been totally supportive of her brother. But it's the way they write Michael's character.
Because like at first when they found out about it, she didn't believe it, because even Amanda didn't believe it. She was like, no, he didn't do it. Like, so it was just, I always like I said, I feel like they make her contradict herself, and it's not adding up for me.
Even Pike and Number One, right? Who are her co-workers, basically. Mm-hmm. Like on Spock's side, oh, he this doesn't sound like him. He wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But Michael? No. Goodness gracious.
It's very interesting. But the Talos, they're able to basically put Spock's mind back together. Michael has to own up to her agreement for them saving Spock. And it's of her, Spock has to show them the memory of why they no longer talk. It was a letdown for me of the scene of why they no longer talk, because he ends up, she's arguing, trying to leave, and Spock is like, no, we're family. And she's like, no, it's your family. And they do the trope of, I'm going to say something irredeemable so that way you don't care if I'm gone. And she ends up calling Spock a half-breed because he's half human and half Vulcan. And I get that that's bad on Vulcan, I guess. But I was sort of expecting more from that altercation. What were you thinking about that scene?
I understand your perspective in that, because I also felt left like, oh, that's it. But I also think that Spock led a very sheltered life, and he was probably never bullied or put down. And so this may have been the first time someone had first time he had an insult, and maybe the insult was too close to home for him ever to forget it, because it was so close to him. And the strange thing about this is that Michael is dealing with that now. Like, I feel like she's having a hard time with being Vulcan, having Vulcan culture, but still being human. And so there's some parallelisms here in their characters, but that should have brought them together, not separated them so much for such a long time. I also feel as though they must have lived together after this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So did they stop talking?
Like, that's what I don't understand.
Before they graduated? So I feel like Amanda mentioned that she noticed that something happened. There was a strange rift but she didn't dive in too deep. Well, you're a mother of these two kids. You mean sit
like
them
he
down
was
at the table and make them
7.
talk?
He was like 7. So like the way it was described, it was like, oh, this happened like when you're in high school, right before you left or something. Because she makes the point of saying this is why you guys are never home at the same time. Like you lived together for years. I think what undercut it was she should have just done the insult. She should have never tried to explain why she was leaving first, if that makes sense. I feel like if she had just insulted him and it was just insult after insult after insult, I mean, it still probably wouldn't be enough in my mind, but she makes a point of explaining, I can't go because people still here want to attack you. But adult Spock even admits to Michael that he knew what she was doing. So that still undercuts why they don't talk anymore.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this scene a lot because I feel as though Spock was groomed for the Vulcan Science Academy.
Yes, he
right?
was. Yes,
and
he was.
Then Sarek realized, oh, Spock has some deficiencies and has a form of dyslexia that he inherited from his mother. They're probably nurturing him a lot, make sure he has the best tutors or whatever to ensure that he's able to progress to be as, part of, to be as powerful as his father, right? And to lead into those footsteps. And Michael was also brought into the family to help Spock, right?
Yes.
Help Spock adjust to his human side. So all of this, I think, was to make Spock the best person ever. And they never really thought about, how Spock can deal with conflict. I have a feeling little Spock did not deal with much. If anything, it was just slam the door on someone if he had some issues. So he took this way too personal, and it's probably because he never really had to, and he was way too young. He was 7, and this just lived in the core of his memory for 20 years, and he was never able to let it go. Like, worse than your first heartbreak, just worse than your first, it was, I don't know, but it's just weird because they still grew up together and that they were never really able to resolve this. And that's what I have a hard time understanding, is the fact that their relationship continued, but just they weren't on speaking terms in the house.
How do you live in a house with someone for all those years and you don't talk to them, especially if Spock has the audacity to say, I knew what you were doing. No, because you're completely right. You're right. How that probably was the most heartbreaking thing that has ever been said to him by someone who he cares about, because we saw that he cared about her, and he was like, you're going to teach me about Earth things and all that stuff. And it's like, okay. And then you admit that you knew what she was doing, and you still let this affect you the way that you let it affect you. And Michael, when you realized you weren't getting away from this family, you never just apologize to him or just say, hey, when we're out in public, keep your distance. I don't know. I probably would have been like, look, I said what I said because I wanted to protect you. When we're in public, don't talk to me, don't touch me, don't look at me, act like you don't like me in public for your own safety. I don't know. I just feel like, also, we're also adults, and she was a child when she was thinking this through. But the writing on that part, I was just like, why would you make that scene? Just did not sit right with me, because I felt like we were missing so much of what really happened between them. So hopefully maybe there's something else. Maybe we see over time that she keeps saying stuff to him, or she keeps calling him that in private. I don't know. I feel like we're just missing something, because I don't know 2 children who can live in the same house like that, siblings who that is the one catalyst that stops them from talking for the rest of their lives.
Beyond that, I'm disappointed at Amanda. How did you not know that this was going on in your home? She was talking about being the best mom, and I think that she should have recognized that she needed to help mend their relationship, and like, okay, but you're siblings, let's work this out. I don't know. I'm puzzled by this whole thing. And like you, I wish that there was a better justification for this. I can see it. I can also see how for some people who have not gone through, I guess we've gone through conflict in our youth, and so we're like able to roll that off our shoulders. But
I mean, I can still be so upset that my brother's like said stuff to me when I was a kid, but like, hey, you coming over for Christmas? Yeah, okay, good. Like, I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Guys, everyone in the comments, if you're listening to this, watching this, tweeting this on our Instagram, let us know what you think about this, because I just felt like this wasn't a good enough reason for why they weren't working. But so we see, though, moving on from this point, because I don't think you and I will come to terms of understanding why.
Right. I do want to say one thing, but during the mind meld, no, I guess why the Talos were inside of Spock's mind, we were able to find out that the Red Angel had a mind meld with Spock.
Yes.
And then Spock, which I don't know why Spock would do that. Like, it's a how do you that could have been really dangerous for Spock. Mind meld with a foreign object.
I think we're seeing that how it was dangerous for Spock because he doesn't know how to handle it all.
Right. But that could have been life-threatening for him.
It was. But you're right. It was life-threatening for him. Like, yeah, you're right.
Good point. But that there was, he was able to see into the future, destruction on Earth and another planet through, I want to say probes or things that he could not connect with, and we're not quite sure, but it's definitely destruction of planets, eradication of life. And so we're left intrigued in finding out more about like, what in the world is this Red Angel connected with? Like more and more we're learning about the Red Angel. Red Angel's human though. We learned that it's lonely.
Human and from the future.
Yeah, human from the future, lonely and desperate for connection.
Yes. Whew. So that's a lot to unpack, but we're gonna come right back to that because let's just jump back on to what's happening on the Discovery. While the whole situation with Hugh and Ash is happening, the whole situation with Michael and Spock is happening, and we have what's happening on the bridge. So Saru comes to Pike and tells him, hey, some transmissions have left the bridge, 3 encoded transmissions. We don't know who sent them. We don't know who received them. And Pike tells him, figure out where they came from, what's going on. And then we see that after Pike gets that message from Vina, I forgot her name, Vina. That where Michael and Spock is, and we see that Pike sees that 1, Michael is okay, 2, that Spock's okay, and he's very happy to see him. And Spock's like, hey, we're on Talos, we need you to come get us. Can we cop a ride with you? And we see Pike is like, all right, let's do a black alert. We need to jump to Talos because he wants to get there as fast as possible. And we see that the spore drive isn't working. And they can't figure out why the spore drive isn't really working because they do that diagnostics on it all the time. So it should be ready to work. So Pike, being the amazing captain that he is like, all right, look, there's a star base 2 light years away from Talos. We're going to say we're going there for repairs because Ash, who's now becoming more Discovery crew than Section 31 crew, is like, look, they're following you. Watch what you're doing because Section 31 can't know. And he's like, look, we're gonna set a course for that star base for our repairs. But what we're really gonna do is after we're on our way there, we're gonna just change our course and go over to Talos. On the bridge, Saru says it was Ash's codes that sent the message. And Ash is like, I didn't do this. It wasn't me. But Pike reveals some information that Michael told him when Talos, people from Talos gave him the vision of where they were. That Section 31, they were going to rip apart Spock's mind and to get the information that they wanted. And so Spock tells Ash, which is very different than how he's ever treated Ash before. He's like, look, you may not know that you're doing it. And I feel like that's Ash's worst fear, of not being in control of his mind again. Because Pike makes a point to say, I know that Section 31 has control, has like this new neurological way of, I guess, finding out information. You may not know you're doing what you're doing. And I think that is, not even think, I'm pretty sure that's Ash's worst fear, of not being in control of his body anymore. And so they end up taking Ash's badge and confined him to his room. And I feel like Pike actually felt bad about doing that. Pike 2 episodes ago would have happily taken his badge and was like, confine him to his room. But Pike this episode was like, we can't take that chance. I'm sorry. Please confine him to his room. I felt like he felt bad about it.
Well, and that's what I was leading towards. Like, he's moving forward logically, because that's where all the evidence points. But I think deep down inside, he was hoping he had made a connection with Ash and that they were able to move forward. I think it's just a level of disappointment, right? When you find out that someone you thought you trusted may have done something wrong, and you're like, oh.
Even if it was like intentional, like even if it was like, I believe that you didn't betray us, but there's a part of you that you can't control that betrayed us, so I can't trust you. I'm sorry. But we all know, as the viewer, it wasn't Ash. We know it was the robot, because I always forget her name.
Ariam,
yes.
Well, we're not exactly 100% positive.
Yes, we are.
I am. Keeps connecting to her. There's these 3 red dots that appear in each one of her eyes, which is leading us to connect. I don't know if that's Red Angel connection. I don't know if this is...
It happened after the probe.
Right. But is the probe connected to the Red Angel? I don't know.
Nope. I'm going on record and saying, no, I'm not saying she's doing it willingly. I feel like she's in the position that Ash was in. She is betraying the crew without realizing she's betraying the crew, or like she may be completely taken over and has no control of like what she's doing. But I firmly 100% believe it's her, because when they get to Talos, they make a lock on Michael and Spock's signature to transport them, but Section 31 gets there at the same exact time, and they make a lock on them. And we learn, because I did not know this, that if 2 people have a lock on the same person for different transporters, and you try to transport them, their atoms will be ripped apart. And so Leland tells Pike, look, stand down. And because I'm not backing down. And so if you try to transport them, I'm going to try and transport them, and they're going to die. Do you want that? And so all the Discovery crew is like, crap, what do we do? Pike's like, look, you can tell Pike doesn't want to stand down, but he also doesn't want to risk their life. And same thing with the Discovery crew. They don't want to stand down, but they also can't risk losing, Michael. Spock is like, okay, important to them, but it's really Michael they truly care about. And so Pike stands down, and Leland he transports Spock and Michael onto his ship and tells Pike that basically you're in trouble. Report to the starbase because you're about to get reprimanded.
But Vina is the one that encouraged Pike to stand down.
Yes, it was Vina. Vina told him, let go of your friends.
And Vina seemed to, I'm not quite sure if we mentioned this earlier, possibly had a previous relationship with Pike and was able to whisper a little something in his ear to influence him to change his mind here and stand down. And I think she said something like, we got you, or you have to move on, something like that. And the Talosians handled it. Yeah.
Because we see that, because the last 10 minutes, as you told me, has like so much stuff that happens. So I feel like I'm running through it really quickly, but there's a lot that happens at once. And so there's a shuttle that takes off from the planet, and Pike tells Saru, okay, come with me. We're going to meet the ship. Let it come into cargo bay. And then we see Leland on Section 31 ship talking to Michael and Spock, and he's trying to interrogate them. And all Michael does is says, you know, say goodbye, Spock. And then Spock, quotation marks for everyone who's listening to this, Spock picks up the Vulcan sign and says, bye, Spock.
That's that.
And they disappear, which I was like, that was the biggest F you to them. And then we see on the cargo ship, or the transport ship in the cargo bay, that the real Spock and Michael get off. And Pike's really happy to see Spock, and you can tell that they have a really great relationship. And Spock ends up smiling, and Pike has to point that out. He's like, wait, are you smiling right now? And Spock is like, I guess I am. I'm like, okay. All right, they're a little jokey. They're really good friends. I'm liking this. But then we see back on Section 31 that Georgiou was aware that this could happen, because she tells Leland, in my world, they tried the same thing, but I destroyed their planet for doing so. And Leland is like, well, why didn't you tell me? And she's like, because I wanted to see how you would explain this to the admirals. Section 31 has to have a brig. Put her in there.
First of all, she has the nerve to say it. It's one thing to do it, but then also admit it later.
Like, put her in the whole thing you were going to use on Spock, use it on her. Get every piece of ounce of knowledge that you can from her, and then kill her. Keeping her alive is a liability that you do not want. The ish is about to hit the fan for Discovery again, because Spock and Michael are on board. They can't go to the starbase. They can't turn themselves in, because Michael tells them Spock is innocent. He didn't kill those three doctors. And so that means someone else did to cover it up. So probably from someone from Section 31.
Yeah.
And then Spock goes on to tell them that the Red Angel is someone from the future, because all intelligent life is going to be destroyed. So I don't know about anyone else who was watching this, but I was thinking Terminator, because it makes sense that the probe that went, not the actual Terminator, but like a world like that, where they made too many sentient beings, and those sentient beings were like, well, why do we need you? Because they sent that probe into that time anomaly, and it came back trying to destroy them. And then we see Arium was hacked by that probe. And I think the Red Angel is probably like a lone survivor who's trying to make sure that the future that they're from isn't the future that is for everyone. And so Pike, being the great captain that he is, he gives everyone, well, technically he only gives people on the bridge the option, but he gives them the option of saying, you can leave. Like, I'm not requiring you to basically become fugitives again. And I love how they're like, hitting, sir, where are we going? We in this, we crew, we down for life. And that's how I know I F with all those people in the Discovery, except for Ash, because I still don't know what's going on with him. I don't know. But Discovery crew can get it all day, every day, because they are all for one for all, which is a huge change from when they first got on and they couldn't care less about Michael. And now we see that they will be all in, they will all go into mutiny for her, for Spock, and for the future of Starfleet. So I'm very happy about this episode, the way it ended. It gives me hope that we're gonna have some fun in the next couple of episodes. Hopefully it's not too much growth, emotional growth, and it's more about kicking butts. What did you think about this ending?
The end about like the Terminator, which you're referring to, like that may be connected to one of the earlier scenes in which like those 4 ambassadors were talking about the control assessment system and like basically allowing this computerized model to determine like their fate, or Starfleet admirals, I should have said that.
Sorry, no, I was just like, wait, did I miss a scene in this episode?
They were talking about a control assessment system.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking that maybe there's a connection there with like, I don't know. No, maybe a reach.
No, but I don't think it is, because nothing, remember, everything that is shown for a reason. So I don't think that is a reach. I just wasn't sure if I missed the scene because I was like, wait, I remember them talking about it, but I don't remember someone else. But okay, so I just wanted to make sure.
There's so much in this episode. I think this could have been 3 episodes.
It really could have.
So much to unpack here.
Yes. By the length of this episode, there is so much to unpack here.
I also am disappointed at the Telosians because they could have also like launched that black hole some other way of like deflecting Section 31 so that to buy the Discovery more time.
Yes.
To beam up. So come on, Telosians, help me out. But at least they had an escape plan, but they seem to have all this other technology. They could have worked out something that would have worked better. Because what if Georgiou did tell Section 31 how to maneuver this and get out of this situation? Or Georgiou was the captain of Section 31. Woo! Scary thought.
She does not. You do not go from being the complete and absolute ruler of an entire universe to being a cog in a wheel on someone else and a freak. No, they need to lock that chick up. So
she needs to go to that ward that like was holding Spock.
Yes.
Got it.
Like,
okay. But I noticed a connection here. So Michael referred to young Michael referred to young Spock as a half-breed and a weird half-breed. And I was thinking, really? Because isn't that kind of the pot calling the kettle black? Because she's also like in this weird like identity
crisis as well.
Not sure of her own identity between Vulcan culture and her human culture, and also not being in love. And she accused Spock of not ever being able to love, but really she's having difficulties there as well. So I noticed that connection. And then also I feel like Ash is a weird in-between state, half-breed.
So like this is like the episode of half-breeds because you have Hugh who doesn't know who he is.
You were going with
half alive, half dead. He doesn't know who he is. You have Ash who makes it know like, do you know who you're talking to? I don't know what's going on with me. You have Michael who was raised human and then tried to fit into a Vulcan world, and now we see that's like not, she doesn't know who she is, Vulcan or human. And now we have Spock added to the mix. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say, I feel like Spock is the sanest out of them all. Out of all this mess, Spock is the sanest of them all, in my opinion, because he only went crazy because his mind had too much information that he could process. Because all of them, every single one of them, including Michael, is a mess, and they all need help.
I think Pike is the sanest of them all, but I also noticed that Pike seems to have a past that we're not aware of, and may have experienced love with Vina. There's so much here in this episode. Oh, I keep circling back to that. And then we'll also find more about, I don't know, this breed, this new Red Angel thing. So who knows wherever we're going from here. This has been a fun ride with this. And one of my favorite episodes. This episode just keeps on giving.
Yeah, this episode is definitely top 5 so far. It will probably stay in the top 5. So as always, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Moneca.
Live long and prosper.